Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Bob Perkins. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, and they asked me to do a little workshop for you so you get to know me a little bit and so I could give you some advice about how to be a successful student. And I have a handout here which I'm hoping that you have downloaded, printed off, and so that you can look at it as we're talking. Being a successful student is really pretty simple. And I guarantee you, if you do all of these things that I'm suggesting, you're good for at least a C. I would say a B or better in all of your classes. Now, I have geared this not so much for online students, but students who are actually in the classroom. So what I want you to do is take what I'm suggesting and then find a way to adapt it to the online courses that you're taking. Most important thing, we start with go to every class, and you go to every class on time. And what I mean by that is not just showing up about the time the class starts, but showing up a little bit early, sitting down, getting your stuff settled, thinking about what you have to accomplish in the class, and ideally, if you have time, sort of just flipping through, doing a quick review of the notes from the previous class. It's kind of like a choke in the engine. It starts to warm you up and get you ready for when the professor comes in and starts the lecture. The second bit of advice is be in every class. And what I mean by be in every class is you don't just show up for the class and then start preparing for the class itself. You prepare ahead of time. You get focused. You say, before you get ready to do that particular assignment, to go to that particular class, you kind of think through, what do I need to do? Is my head in the right place? Am I being at least neutral about the work I have to do, if not positive? And you get your head in the right place for it. And obviously make sure that you have all the materials that you need to have. Sit in the power T. Now, if you're in an actual online class, and you would have to kind of simulate this, or if you're actually in a regular class, I meant to say, or you'll have to simulate it for an online class. Most professors talk to the first 2 or 3 rows in the classroom and straight up the middle. If you're in a classroom, watch how professors work. They rarely look right or left. They're going to look at the ones that they can see directly in front of them and up the middle. That's called the power T. And if I put it on the board and the professor's up here, we also call this section over here on the left and the right in the far back of the room the U, or the unconscious area. All right? I think enough about that. Get the game plan. And the game plan is the syllabus. Professors are going to tell you what they're thinking, tell you what they're planning to do, or at least give you a little sense of that with the syllabus. You really want to read through that. You want to read through the class schedule. You want to get a sense of what chapters they're going to cover when. They might not go from chapter 1 through chapter 15. They might start with chapter 3 and go through 8 and then go back to 1. If they're doing things like that, there's a reason why they're doing it, and part of what you want to do is try to figure that out. You also want to get that schedule in your head so you know when quizzes are coming up, tests are coming up, that sort of thing. Taking good notes is particularly important, and the approach that I like the best is called the split page method. And if you notice that most of your notebooks are like this, and they have a margin over on the left side, what you're going to do is you're going to take the bulk of your notes here, and then as soon after a class as possible, and I don't mean wait a day or wait a 2, within 24 hours, if not within a matter of hours, you want to read through all your notes, make sure that they make sense, make sure that you got everything that the professor was talking about, and then you want to abbreviate the notes over here in this margin. And then what happens is when you are reviewing your notes, you can read through your notes and study them, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Then you cover up the right side and you quiz yourself down the left side. So basically what you're doing is you're creating a little quiz for yourself that helps you to learn more what you've taken in your notes, and at the same time to start preparing for quizzes and tests that are going to be coming up. split page. You can Google it, and you can actually see written examples of it, but it's really as basic as I've just explained to you. Review your notes, and review them as I just said. If you review them right after class and make your little quiz down the left margin, you've looked at the material now the second time. You looked at it and heard it during the lecture. You've reviewed it again, and then if you use that time getting to class early, before the next class, you get to review it again. Every time you're doing this, you're taking bits and pieces of information and moving it into long-term memory, and then you're not cramming, okay? So it'll seem like a lot more work, but it's a lot less work when compared to if you just let it sit and sit and sit until the final exam, and then you're trying to cram it all in at that point, okay? Next thing, do the reading. And there's an approach that's called SQ3R. You can Google that as well. It stands for survey, question, read, recite, review. Very much like we just talked about with the notes. So you have to read a particular chapter. And I was like you, probably still am in some ways. Sometimes I have to read things I don't particularly want to read. So what you want to do is you got to get your head in the right place. You say, okay, I got to read this chapter 8. It looks kind of boring to me, but it's important that I read it. So what you're going to do is you're going to survey it. You're going to kind of flip through each page and say, okay, this is what I need to do. If it looks like stuff that really is going to bore you, then you need to figure out how you break up the reading process and you get it done. Most of the new texts now have summary sections at the back. That's a good place to start. When you get through the survey, read the summary section at the back of it, because they're going to give you a sense of the kinds of things that they think you ought to be getting out of that chapter. So when you go back and actually read the chapter, it'll help you to watch for things. It might kind of spark your attention a little bit more. And then what you want to do is you want to read section by section, and that's where the question part comes in. So if you're reading the very first chapter in Introduction to Psychology, and it's about what is psychology, there's your question right there. And you're going to read that section, and then you get into the 3 R's, read, recite, review. You read it, then you put your hand over it, and like we covered it up here, and you say, what did I just read? And if you can't remember a good part of it, obviously you're not paying attention, then you got to go back and review it and go back over it. But it sounds like a very slow way to read. It is, but you're going to get more out of it. Lots of students will say, oh sure, I read the chapter, and basically they're just sort of scanning their eyes over the words and the pages, and they're not reading much of anything. All right? So this is a slow process. It's studying is what it is. It's studying in advance. All right? Plan your day, and I have in parentheses on this handout, and your life. Before you go to bed at night, you may already be doing this, but it's a good idea to say, all right, what do I have tomorrow? What do I have to accomplish tomorrow? You make some notes to yourself. You put some things together. If you're actually going to a class, what notebook do you have to bring? What books do you have to bring? And you think about that. When you get up in the morning, it's the same thing again, but you're pumping yourself up a little bit more. Say, here's another day. I've got these classes. It's important that I pay attention and I get through this. And this just popped into my head, so I'll tell you at the moment. You are paying, depending on how you figure the money, somewhere around $65, $70 per class. So if you take the total amount that you're paying for your college education, divide it by the number of classes you have, the number of hours, and the number of classes in the semester that you actually have, you divide that into it. It's going to work out somewhere between $65, $70 per class. So if you blow the class off, it's like walking in, slapping $65, $70 down on the table by the instructor and walking back out and not getting anything out of it. So you're the one who's really going to get the most out of that money. So that helps to motivate you. There's another way to look at it. Learn outside the class. You know, your college education isn't just a collection of classes that you're going to take over a period of time. It's a cumulative kind of process with all the classes, but it's the total number of experiences. If you're off campus and taking online courses, but can get to campus for speakers that are in the evening, like our concert lecture series, participate in a student activity or two, the more you can get a more comprehensive college experience, the more you kind of grow as a college student, the greater the education that you're going to get. Get to know the faculty. And I can't tell you how many times I ask students what the faculty member's name is, and they go, don't really know. Okay, look in the catalog. Find out who the faculty is. If they're full-time faculty, they're going to be there. It's going to tell you what degrees they have, where they got what schools they got their degrees from. Try to get that kind of information so you know their name, you know a little bit more about them. The other trick with that is the more that they see you, okay, the better it is for you. It's the same with sitting in the power T. There are two reasons that I didn't mention. One is if the professor sees you in the class or hears more from you as an online student, they become more familiar with it. It puts more pressure on you to work harder. But when a prof has to give you the benefit of the doubt, maybe, you know, is it between a B or a B minus on a particular project, if they're familiar with your face, your name, they've interacted with you quite a bit, they're more likely to lean in your favor on that. So get to know the faculty, let them get to know you. That's helpful to that learning process as well. Find a mentor. Find a faculty member, find your advisor. Those would be your primary folks. It doesn't have to be your advisor. It could be a favorite faculty member. It doesn't even have to be necessarily a faculty member in the area that you're looking to study, although that would be obviously the ideal. But you want somebody who cares about you as a student, that you can share issues with, that you can ask questions of, and you know they'll kind of coach you through it. If you're a student athlete, I would say don't call it an advocate, call it a coach. Okay? But you want to find somebody who can help you to kind of work through this college education. And then we come right back to where we started. Go to every class on time, be in every class, be focused, be prepared, have your head in the right place, and you do all these things and you're off and running and you'll do really well. If you've got any questions about what I talked about with this, and I know I spoke very quickly, you can call me at 351-5271. That's my Dean of Students cell phone. It is on all the time, 24/7, although sometimes I put it on stun or vibrate as they call it, and I don't hear it or I'm talking to somebody else, but you'll get my voicemail. You can leave me a message, and I promise I'll call you back. Or you can email me at robert.perkins@keystone.edu, and you'd be surprised at what late hours you might get email responses from me. So either way, you want to talk some more, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Best of luck with the semester.